When you talk about Peerless, Woodinville, Wilderness Trail, Iron Root, Chattanooga, New Riff, Balcones, Wyoming Whiskey, these distilleries were the ones a lot of folks have talked about, and with good reason. But what's the next wave of distilleries you guys should be keeping your eye on? Let's find out who should be getting your attention and money now on The Mash and Drum. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mash and Drum Whiskey Room. I am Jason C. With so many craft distilleries out there today, and it being almost impossible to try them all, it's hard to know which ones are worth your time and money. Also, I think there's an inherent problem with the word craft or artisan in the distilling world because there's no real definition. There are craft distillers who may stretch the truth as to what's in the bottle and give a very romantic story to say what's exactly in that bottle. To me, I like to look at it as Alan Bishop does, the maverick distilling alchemist from Indiana's Spirit of French Lick. It's defined by dedication and involvement in every stage from fermentation and distillation, maturation, blending skills, and bottling, using the best of what your community and state has to offer to craft true grain to glass spirits where you can taste the terroir and true spirit of where that whiskey is from. So in essence, in my opinion, everyone, even the big boys, are craft distilleries. So all of these selections in this list do very, very little to absolutely no sourcing, grain to glass, baby. First up is Frey Ranch, not just because of its beautiful bottle design, but because Frey Ranch is one of a growing number of craft distilleries that didn't release their own bourbon until it was aged for about 4 years. Now, Frey Ranch has been in the heart of the Lake Tahoe watershed just outside of Fallon, Nevada since 1854. Now, you wouldn't think being in such a hot climate, Nevada would be a great place to farm, but fifth-generation farmer and CEO Colby Frey saw an opportunity to expand his farming expertise into distillation and considers himself a whiskey farmer. Now, they began wine production in 2001, but distilling more potent spirits like vodka, gin, and absinthe began in 2006. Up until 2010, Nevada hadn't fully enacted laws regulating small distilleries. Now, every part of the whiskey making process with these guys is done on the 2,500-acre ranch. The crops are sustainably grown, malted, distilled, aged, and bottled right there in Nevada. Now, their straight bourbon whiskey is made with only 10% of their crops. The rest of their crops mostly go in the dairy next door to feed the cows. The whiskey is distilled in a custom Vendome still before it's matured for 4 years, with some 5-year-old barrels also making their way into their latest batches. What's cool about this one, they use a 4-grain mash bill, non-GMO corn, winter cereal rye, winter wheat, and 2-row barley, instead of the more traditional 3-grain recipe that we're used to coming from Kentucky, using just corn, rye, and barley. This is bottled at 90 proof, it's non-chill filtered, and sports an incredible bottle design with a copper cork that I think weighs about, 8 pounds. It's really insane. It's an absolutely beautiful bottle design. Honestly, I've seen a lot of craft distillers give you a lot less, both inside the bottle and actually from a bottle design standpoint, and charge a lot more. This one's only 55 bucks. Frey Ranch also has an incredible rye whiskey with a mash bill that's 100% rye. It's 100 proof, bottled in bond, aged at least 4 years. That one's around 60 bucks. Stellar and fantastic whiskeys coming out of Frey Ranch. Their single barrels have been popping up, around here and there. I've definitely seen them on Sealbox. They're really impressive. Add these guys to your list immediately, Frey Ranch. All right, so from Nevada, we're going to Wisconsin. Next up is Driftless Glen. Brian and Renee Bemis, the husband and wife team, searched the country for a terroir harboring the grain and water necessary to make their unique bourbon and rye. They landed in the Driftless area in Wisconsin, a region rich with peat, bogs, amazing aquifer, and uncommon sandy soil for their grains to grow. The edge of the Driftless area is known as Sand County and is distinctive from the rest of the world because of the specific combination of temperature, water, soil, and weather, which all combine to form their delicious whiskeys. So they use a double distillation process that includes a 10,000-pound, 44-foot tall column still along with a one-of-a-kind pot still. Using grain and water from that Driftless region, they produce and barrel bourbon and rye whiskeys daily. Now, the bourbon whiskey is made with those local ingredients from the Driftless region in Wisconsin, 96 proof, 60% corn, 20% rye, and 20% malted barley. It's 4+ years old, and it's about 50 bucks. They also have an incredible rye whiskey that's available as well. Really different flavor profiles. They have some serious single barrels that are hitting the market, including one that myself and Scott from my Bourbon Journey picked for the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. Amazing, amazing whiskeys coming out of Driftless Glen. Check them out. From Wisconsin to Texas, next up, it's the Still Austin Whiskey Company. So Still Austin is an independent craft whiskey distillery founded in 2015, focusing on a true grain-to-glass concept that produces the highest quality whiskey by using local resources and sustainable practices. Now, the team is committed to carrying out each part of the process in-house. That means never sourcing whiskey from another distillery, making everything from scratch and managing everything in-house, milling, mashing, fermenting, distilling, barreling, and bottling. The distilling team is led by head distiller John Schrappel, the incomparable master nose Nancy Fraley, and veteran master distiller Mike DeLevante, one of the most experienced and respected distillers in North America, who designed the distillery, which includes a 42-foot custom-made column still named Nancy and her sister copper pot still, the Queen. As we know with Texas whiskeys, that high heat and shifting temperatures make the distillate move rapidly in and out of the oak barrels and mature a lot faster, so it can also cause the bourbon to have heavy oak flavor or harsh tannins. To prevent this, Still Austin uses a meticulous 6-month slow water reduction technique focused on flavor and balance, which gives the alcohol a softness on the palate and brings more mature notes like vanilla and caramel to the forefront. This is a similar technique that we saw Nancy Fraley use at the award-winning Iron Root Republic Distillery, also in Texas. So after years of hard work and perfecting their techniques, their flagship spirit, a new straight bourbon known as the Musician, which is made from 100% Texas-grown corn rye and malted barley, priced at $45 with a proof of 90.4, was released. They also recently released a cask strength version of this, which is a deeper, richer flavor profile made from a select blend of choice barrels. This is bottled at 118 proof and for $65. I've never tasted a Texas whiskey that tasted so close to Elijah Craig barrel proof. It's absolutely incredible stuff for the age. All right, it is Texas to Indiana. It's Spirits of French Lick, led by the alchemist himself, Alan Bishop. Spirits of French Lick is leading the way for Indiana distillers by bringing the artisan distilling industry and its colorful history back to the southern region of Indiana. Now, the backdrop of their whiskey is the untold and unfolding story about the nature of distillation in the state, while playing the part of both distiller and historians. Led by distiller Alan Bishop, or as he calls himself, an alchemist, he's deeply passionate about the connection forged between agriculture and distillation. Alan comes from a family of distillers and has immersed himself in the history and future of distilling right there in Indiana. Spirits of French Lick focuses on 4 pillars of distilling: bourbon, brandy, botanical spirits, and American whiskey. Locally, they lead the industry by being the largest pot still distillery in the state of Indiana. They pride themselves on using local Indiana products when not sourcing directly from their own farm. Alan has created a new hybrid, open pollinated strain of heirloom corn called Amanda Palmer that, along with the use of alternative grains in distilling, including oats, kasha, and buckwheat, is one of the many things that separate them from other Indiana artisan distilleries. They also focus on temperature control during all phases of distillation, unique pot distillation methods, lower entry proofs into the barrel, lower char barrels during maturation, and toasted staves and heads. All that combined has made Spirits of French Lick an absolute must-try for any whiskey enthusiast. Now, when it comes to the whiskey, they have some standouts in their arsenal, particularly the Lee Sinclair 4-grain and the Matty Gladden High Rye bourbons. The Matty is 100 proof, 4 years old, with a mash bill of 55 corn, 35 rye, and 10% malted barley for about $45. The Lee Sinclair is 4 years old, 100 proof mash bill of 60 corn, 17 wheat, 13 oats, and 10 caramel malt, and about $65. Both are bottled in bond, non-chill filtered, and use a number 2 char in 53-gallon barrels. They also recently released this wheater called the William Dalton bottled in bond, 4 years old, 100 proof, 70 corn, 20% wheat, 10% caramel malt. All of these are amazing stuff. They also have a rye whiskey that's releasing soon. If not, it's already released. I mean, the whiskey's great. Larry Bird freaking lives there. Go check him out. Now we are heading to Tennessee to Leiper's Fork, and that's what's in my glass right now. So good, so good. Wait till you hear about these guys. Opening in Williamson County, Tennessee in late summer of 2016, the goal was to resurrect the lost history and heritage of small batch whiskey production in Williamson County. Leiper's Fork Distillery is creating high-end premium whiskeys using local ingredients and pure limestone filtered water, resulting in really unique and delicious whiskeys. Now, Leiper's Fork Distillery will be characterized primarily by a low-volume, low-impact concept of production, allowing them to fine-tune everything when crafting their spirits. Now, this delicious bottle, which I got with the help of one of my amazing patrons, is the Leiper's Fork Tennessee Whiskey Bottled in Bond. Now, this bourbon has all the things that can make a young bourbon stand out. It's 4 years old, bottled in bond, 70% corn, 15% rye, 15% malted barley, 100% local, mass fermented, distilled, aged, and bottled by Leiper's Fork Distillery. Non-chill filtered, it's also pot distilled, has a low barrel entry proof at only 110, and it's $65. Now, I know these guys don't have a lot of production yet. As you guys heard me, they do kind of low production, really focused on, the whiskey and making it right. But when these do pop up, definitely check them out. Not a ton of volume, but I did see these on Sealbox not too long ago. Definitely check them out, $65. It's very, very impressive and delicious. No Lincoln County process in this at all, but a delicious bourbon. All right, from Tennessee to Atlanta, Georgia, it's ASW Distillery. ASW stands for American Spirit Whiskey. Jim Chasteen and Charlie Thompson found a common love for whiskey while at the University of Georgia. Scotch, Irish whiskey, bourbon, and rye. They spent a great deal of time enjoying the company of friends while searching for all the best in all the types of whiskey, which of course led them to wanting to create their own eventually. So taking inspiration from Ireland, France, and England, they created a recipe for a smooth drinking and versatile whiskey that they came to call American Spirit Whiskey. They end up hiring Justin Manglitz, a University of Georgia graduate and masterful self-taught brewer, to do what he's always dreamed of, forging the ancient Scottish tradition of making whiskey in small batches on copper pot stills, with the southern innovation of leaving the grain solids in throughout the whole production process. They are actually one of the few distilleries in the world combining the pot still method with the grain-in method to brand themselves as Southern Pot Still Pioneers. With so much inspiration behind them, there's nothing these guys don't make. They make bourbon, rye, peated single malt, Irish-style whiskey. It's crazy. There's nothing they won't do. My personal favorite is their Duality Double Malt, Georgia's first ever double gold medal whiskey. Duality is also the world's first whiskey to mash, ferment, and distill malted rye and malted barley all in the same batch. It drinks like a rye with the finish of a smoky single malt. It's really unique, absolutely delicious stuff. They also have this one, their Georgia Heartwood, which is a wheated bourbon finished with some Georgia oak staves. Justin Manglitz and the team are making some incredible whiskeys. They are different, unique, truly worth your time and money. Go check out ASW Distillery and what they're doing in Georgia. Okay, two more. We're going back to Indiana for another great distillery called Starlight. Now, Starlight Distillery is a family-owned distillery in Starlight, Indiana. It's owned by the Huber family, and the distillery started out as a family farm all the way back in 1940. It's had multiple changes over the years. In 1978, the Hubers started their own winery. Then in 2000, the Hubers took the next step and received approval to open a distillery. Starlight is farm-focused and produces many single origin products. I think they're the only distillery I know that is a working farm, market, orchard, tourist destination, winery, banquet hall, and distillery, all wrapped into one crazy, awesome location. All of their offerings are made using the sweet mash technique, and all of the barrels they use are air dried for a minimum of 2 years, with some air dried up to 4 years. Now, the distillery prides itself on being family owned and truly providing a farm to bottled experience. All of the whiskey is distilled there in their pot stills and aged on the property as well. The history of the distillery itself is very unique and runs 8 generations deep. The current distilling is conducted by Ted Huber and his sons, Christian and Blake, to make it a true family operation. Now, as far as the bottles go, I've gotten a ton of samples from Starlight. Absolutely incredible stuff. They have a bottled and bond bourbon, 3-grain and 4-grain blend. They have a port finish, a Sauternes finish, sherry, double oaked, rye whiskey, malt whiskey, and a bunch of single barrel selections that I've seen. If you guys see Starlight, check them out. I know they're also available online in some places, also in Sealbox. I think I've seen them as well. Definitely check out Starlight. Absolutely amazing, different, unique, grain to glass, great stuff. All right, guys, last one, and I'm going local. Right here in Ohio, it's Middle West Spirits. So Middle West Spirits is a local distillery located here in Columbus, Ohio. They make a range of vodkas and whiskeys, under the label OYO, which is a pronunciation of Ohio that more closely approximates the Native American word for the river. The team draws on 4 generations of distilling knowledge to make spirits that elevate local flavors. Middle West Spirits co-founder Ryan Lang, 4th generation distiller, said his great-grandfather made moonshine on his property right there in Pennsylvania. Lang prides himself on sourcing high-quality ingredients locally, from the Bluegrass Farms corn to the Bucyrus, Ohio wheat, to the barrels from Speyside, Cooperage, and Jackson, Ohio, and the bottles made in Lancaster, Ohio. Co-founder Brady Kanya is in charge of the Middle West Spirits experience and marketing. Josh Daly, the first hire, is in charge of the bottle shop events and distillery tours. Together, these 3 have grown the brand to what you see today. And what do they have today? A wheat whiskey, a wheated bourbon, a white rye whiskey, an Oloroso sherry finished bourbon, and my personal favorite, this dark pumpernickel rye whiskey. I'll tell you, when I first moved here and I tried their stuff, I could tell there was something there, but their selections needed a bit more time. Well, their time has come, and their stuff they're putting out now is absolutely fantastic. The wheated products are rich, floral, fruity, a lot of baking spices. Now this dark pumpernickel rye is my favorite. It's got this raisin, cinnamon, swirl bread thing going on. It's full-bodied, stellar stuff. If you're ever in Columbus, you know, let me know. Maybe I'll meet you there. We'll have a drink, have a pour. But Middle West Spirits have pretty good distribution now, keeps getting better, but definitely go check them out right here in Ohio. Now, before we go there, we do have to make a quick stop at Cedar Ridge in Iowa. Jeff Quint founded Cedar Ridge in 2005. The Quint family has been farming and distilling in Iowa for generations, and Cedar Ridge was Iowa's first licensed distillery since Prohibition. In 2010, Cedar Ridge produced Iowa's first bourbon whiskey. Now, it's fitting because Iowa is the #1 corn producing state in USA, so what better place to make bourbon? Corn for their bourbon is grown on the family farm in Winthrop, Iowa. They store and mill all their corn and all their grain right on site. These guys use no temperature control in their aging process. They use everything right from their farm, grain to glass, and for what nature provides, which is what you want, like I said, from a craft distillery. So these guys have a bourbon, a rye, a wheater, a bottled and bond bourbon. This bourbon is a single barrel, absolutely delicious stuff. It's about 75% corn in the mash bill, all Iowa grown right there. They have the Quintessential, which is actually a really unique single malt, and it's American single malt using a Solera cask method. So it's got some really incredible flavors. Cedar Ridge, you would not believe the flavor that you get out of some of these barrels and some of these bottles, especially when you're looking at whiskey that's 3-4 years old. Absolutely amazing stuff. Do not shy away from anything made by Cedar Ridge. They're making absolutely incredible bourbons and whiskeys. Definitely check out Cedar Ridge. All right, guys, well, hope you enjoyed this video for my can't miss craft distilleries for 2021. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you think of my list. Let me know, leave a comment below. Let me know if there's anything else I should be trying that's out there that you think is, really stands out to you. It's always great to support your local distilleries. So always, if you can, it's great to buy from the big guys, but when you can, definitely drink local. Like I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. So cheers, and I'm gonna go find, a couple hundred people to share all this with. Take care, everybody.